So, Carol, you decided to get your GED. You did that. And then, as I understand it, you had an encounter with a medical doctor who paid you a compliment. And you started to think about what your future might look like differently.
Yes, it was after one of my suicide gestures. This doctor, he spoke to me, and then he spoke to my husband at the time. And after that conversation, he just told me, that I was intelligent, I was attractive, I could do more with my life. And I had forgotten that I was intelligent, because even during those years when we were missing lots of school, my older sister and I could miss, a week of school, 2 weeks of school, and still go in and make an A or a B. And I guess that's a credit to my mother, because I know that my mother could have gone to college under a different set of circumstances. She had polio, and that was a factor in her dropping out of school. She couldn't climb the steps of the high school. Mm. And so he reminded me, that there was a time when I was smart. And also the high school class that I would have graduated with, people were graduating that, in my mind, I knew these people, and I knew that they were not as smart as I was. Mm-hmm. And I learned about the high school equivalency test at a time when I was too young to take it, because in the state of Virginia, you had to be 20 to take it. And I wasn't 20 when I learned about it. But I did take the test, and I was told that I had one of the highest scores they had seen, except in math. I barely passed math. I scored in the 34th percentile. And I think that 32 was the failing percentile. Mm. And that had a lot to do with, there's no way that you can do well and understand algebra and higher mathematics if you're not in school and understanding the processes. And I did drop out after completing the 8th grade. I started the 9th grade, and that was when I totally left school. And I remember that the last report card that I received in school was all F's. And that was because there was so much turmoil. At that time, I was living with my sister in Roanoke, that there was no way to focus or study. It was all about survival.
Yeah, I can understand that just from the stories that you've been telling about that time. So you wind up taking the GED, you score well. And then I love the story of you went first to community college, and I heard you, I think it was on James Dobson's podcast, talking about how you were the one. This is the one thing I tell people, Carol, when they say, like, how should I get ahead, or what should I do to, if I want your job, what should I do? And I always say yes to everything, especially when you're young. Like, be the one, volunteer to work overnight, work on Christmas, work on the weekends. Be the one who says yes to everything. Empty the garbages if that's what they want you to do. Be above nothing. That's never, and you know what? I'm still that person. I'm still the one who is like, I'll do it. I'll do it all. I can do it. I can turn things around. And it's amazing, because not everybody's that way. So if you can just make yourself that way, or commit to being a hard worker, success will follow. And that was so evident in your community college experience. Tell us what you did while you were there.
Sometimes I don't tell this part of the story because I don't think people will believe it. But I was a work-study student working 10 hours a week in the community college library. Often the regular employees would call out. And so there'd be a crisis about who's going to work the evenings. And I would always volunteer to work the evenings. And so the library director created a full-time job, nights and weekends. They hired me for that. And I had a position where, when I decided to get a 4-year degree, I could go to school full-time during the day, work nights and weekends, bring my children to work when I needed to, and set them at a table. I didn't know God at the time, but he certainly set up the perfect job situation for me. For 5 years, I worked for the state of Virginia, getting paid what was the salary at that time. And I was going to school, and because people didn't use the library nights and weekends, I studied, and I graduated magna cum laude from Roanoke College.
Wow. And prior to that, I skipped over, I feel like these are God's messengers, but I skipped over the orderly who Did
Right.
he or she put a book on your bed? Can you just cover that? Because I feel like
Well,
that's one of the
is
messengers.
two different stories. When I was working in a nursing home, an African orderly from Sierra Leone told me that he went to college with a lot of people who were not as smart as I was. I ought to go to college. And so that's how he planted the seed that led me to check into the community college and start my college education. So the medical doctor and the African orderly had words that changed my life. Now, the story about the hospital experience, that was during the time when I had, I would say, Paul on the road to Damascus trip experience. I was in the hospital for a medical reason. I was taking medications, and some people would say that it was a medication, but my life played in front of me, and I thought I was dying. And I was, I was just totally, I would say, messed up and lost. I didn't actually know that, but I know that my life played in front of me. It was as if there was a narrator showing me different points in my life, asking me to choose. And I knew about, I knew about Jesus. I knew about Christianity, but I believed in reincarnation at the time. After I tell this story, any credibility I have left in the world is gone. But anyway,
Good. I'm excited.
I believed in reincarnation because I couldn't explain my life. How is it that of the 12, I was the one that got out? It didn't make any sense to me. My life was always better than their lives. I was buying a new house when I was 17. And it just, and that happened because I happened to be listening to the radio. They were advertising FHA 235 homes. All you needed was $300 down. And so I watched a brick house being built from the ground up, that I lived in. And so to my family, my experience was so, it was just so different.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.